Kimberly Thomas was born on June 8, 1958, to parents Louis and Helen. She was described as a passionate, vibrant, and loving individual. After high school, she earned a psychology degree from the University of Rochester. That's also where she met her husband, Dr. Edward Friedland, who went by Eddie or just Ed. She then went on to earn her master's degree in music. After that, she and Ed moved around a bit before finally ending up in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he established himself as a nephrologist. Kim, on the other hand, worked several jobs over the years, including a voiceover artist with WNYC, a stockbroker, and a broadcaster for the Financial News Network in Miami. She also co-chaired the Southern Piedmont Adopted Families of America and worked to create new policies for independent adoptions. By the summer of 1990, 32-year-old Kimberly was still living in Charlotte and was now the mother of a 10-month-old adopted son named Elliot. Unfortunately, her newfound motherhood wouldn't last long after a horrible tragedy occurred. On the night of July 26, 1990, Kim spoke with her best friend, Nancy Baruto, and the two talked about Elliot being sick and made plans to take their children to the Jewish Community Center pool the following day. The next morning, Nancy called Kim to discuss their plans to go to the pool, but she strangely didn't answer, and the machine wasn't picking up. Nancy then went to the pool alone, assuming that Elliot was still sick, and Kim decided to stay home. Afterward, Nancy began heading towards Kim's house, but then changed her mind and turned around with the hopes of beating rush hour traffic. Elliot's babysitter also tried calling Kim multiple times, but just like Nancy, she received no answer. Kim then missed her hair appointment that was scheduled for 11:45 a.m. When Ed returned home that evening, he found Kim's lifeless body in their dimly lit dining room, face down in a pool of blood. Elliot was found unharmed in his crib and had been there for at least 12 hours. Ed called 911 and informed them that his wife was dead. He also said she was handcuffed and had been shot in the head. After calling 911, he called his medical partner, who arrived before law enforcement. Once again, he explained that Kim was dead and nothing could be done for her. His partner then left, taking Elliot with him. An autopsy determined that Kim had been stabbed to death in what was described as an extreme overkill, but it didn't appear that she was sexually assaulted, though. As for a motive, robbery was quickly ruled out because nothing was taken from the home except for Kim's wedding ring, which has never been found. There was also no forced entry. It appeared to investigators that Kim was likely sleeping on her stomach when she was handcuffed and attacked. She then tried to flee across the house, but her killer ultimately caught up to her and continued the assault. Investigators initially looked at Marion Gales as a potential suspect. He was addicted to drugs and had burglarized homes on the street where Ed and Kim lived. Plus, he knew Ed and Kim because they hired him to do odd jobs around their home, and a witness saw him near the home on the morning of the murder. However, the investigators felt that the murder was premeditated and very well executed, and they didn't believe a drug-addicted individual could have done that. An anonymous tip would then change the course of the investigation. The caller told Crime Stoppers that Ed was involved in an extramarital affair with a nurse he worked with. After that, investigators discovered that he had actually been involved in multiple affairs over the last 2 years. 4 years later, Ed was arrested and charged with Kim's murder. However, the charges were later dropped due to a lack of evidence. He then filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Marion Gales and won an $8.6 million settlement. In 1997, he filed another civil suit against the city of Charlotte and the sole investigator, claiming malicious prosecution. However, the lawsuit was deemed frivolous and ultimately dismissed. On the surface, it looked like Ed might have gotten away with murder until DNA from the crime scene was tested. DNA evidence was collected from her body, a rug in her house, and a stain on the mattress cover, and they were all consistent with Marion Gales, who is already serving a 21-year sentence for the 2008 murder of LaKoya Martin. Some believe that Gales will likely be charged as he nears release, but as of August 2024, this case remains unsolved. 46-year-old Latasha Coleman was living in Jackson, Mississippi, and was the mother to an adult son named Dexter. She worked as a corrections officer for a local prison and also did flower arrangements for weddings and funerals. She was described as a very hardworking individual who loved her family dearly. Unfortunately, in the spring of 2013, she married Derek Coleman, who was allegedly very abusive. On July 17, 2022, she filed domestic and malicious charges against him, and a no-contact order was issued. Just 4 days later, Coleman violated the order after going to her home and kicking in her door. She then pressed more charges against him, and on July 25th, he was found guilty of violating the order, with the court saying Latasha was in extreme danger if he was allowed to go free. His bond was then set at $250,000. Unfortunately, the following month, Coleman's attorney, Damon Stevenson, appealed to the court to have his bond reduced, and Judge McDaniels agreed. His bond was then changed to $50,000 with the requirement that he wear a GPS monitor for 270 days or until the appeal was resolved. Once again, he was informed that any contact with Latasha was strictly prohibited. Upon being released, he was instructed to get the GPS monitor, but he never did. A year later, Latasha would strangely go missing. On July 17, 2023, Dexter spoke to his mother, unaware that it would be the last time they would ever speak. The following day, Latasha was last seen at her home around 7:30 p.m. before vanishing along with her car. 2 days later, her family called the jail where Latasha worked to let her know that her favorite aunt had passed away and was shocked to learn that she had been a no-call, no-show. Dexter then decided to go by her home, and upon entering, he first noticed that her 2002 gray Acura MDX with the license plate HBA 8639 was gone. He then went inside and found her 3 dogs, along with her Apple Watch. However, Latasha, along with her purse, was nowhere to be found. At 7:45 p.m., her family called and reported her missing, and a silver alert was quickly issued. Unfortunately, it never led to her whereabouts, and on September 14, 2023, Coleman's bond was revoked after they realized he never got his GPS monitor. During his trial for violating the no-contact order in December of 2023, a brawl broke out between Latasha and Coleman's family. In the end, 5 people were arrested and charged with disorderly conduct. Coleman was then found guilty and sentenced to jail. After being released in mid-2024, he was gunned down outside of a Texas gas station. The owner of the store was also killed, and investigators do not believe the shooting is related to Latasha's disappearance. Unfortunately, if he had knowledge of Latasha's whereabouts, that information died along with him. Latasha is 5 feet 5 inches tall and weighs about 180 pounds. She has brown eyes and wore her hair in braids. She is 46 years old and was last seen wearing black jeans and a black t-shirt. Sadly, as of August 2024, she and her car have never been found, and this case remains unsolved. Latrice Armstead was born on November 2, 1973, and grew up in Crenshaw, Mississippi, and went by her middle name. She was described as a very generous and family-oriented individual who was known for her deep-set dimples. In 2012, 38-year-old Shay was living in Memphis, Tennessee, and was a devoted mother to her 3 sons. She was also, unfortunately, married to a very abusive man by the name of Tony Bledsoe. At the time, they were going through a divorce, and he had beat her up so badly that she had to have her jaw wired shut while she recovered. Shay then fled to St. Louis, Missouri to stay with family. However, she had to travel back to Memphis to pick up her youngest son at 11 a.m. on July 28, 2012. Sadly, after leaving, her family would never see her again. After arriving in Memphis, she was spotted twice with Tony, which violated the order of protection she had out against him. After the second sighting, Shay would strangely go missing. 2 days later, on July 30th, her family reported her missing. The following day, her black Acura TL was then found burned in Clarksdale, Mississippi, about an hour away from Memphis. Tony was also arrested for violating the order of protection. Shay has a gold tooth on her right lateral incisor and multiple tattoos, including 3 bears on her left shoulder blade, a rosary around her left arm, a blue rose on her right arm, a panther on her leg, and a heart on her left breast. Sadly, it's now been over 12 years since Shay was last seen, and as of August 2024, this case remains unsolved. Samantha Claire Sayers was born on August 13, 1990, and went by Sam. She grew up in Girard, Pennsylvania, and in high school, she began suffering from alopecia and has been shaving her head ever since. After a trip out west, she fell in love with Seattle and relocated there after attending college in Fredonia, New York. In 2018, 27-year-old Sam was working as a properties artisan at Seattle Rep and living in an apartment in Belltown, Washington. She was also dating and living with Kevin Dares, who she met 3 years earlier on Tinder. Sam was described as an avid nature lover and experienced hiker. Unfortunately, she would strangely disappear on one of her hikes and was never seen again. On August 1, 2018, Sam went alone in her blue Ford Fiesta to hike Vesper Peak in the North Cascades National Park. While she had previously been there, it was a very difficult hike with rock climbing involved. She brought along 3 sandwiches, some chips, and water, but no cold weather gear for nighttime. The last time Kevin heard from her was when he sent her a text asking her to be careful, and she responded, "Okay, baby, I love you." Around 1 p.m., she stopped to talk with hikers and eat lunch. One of the hikers even sat and ate with her, and when she failed to return, this person helped investigators locate the spot where they had lunch together. Most people easily remember her that day due to her shaved head and because of the workout leggings and sports bra she had on. She also had a hiking pole in each of her hands and wore a black backpack. Sam also had a distinct pattern of stars tattooed on her head that her mother, Lisa, designed. After finishing her lunch, she was seen climbing back down the southwest side of the mountain, never to be seen again. She was supposed to check in with Kevin around 6 p.m., but by the time 7 had rolled around and he still hadn't heard from her, he decided to go look for her himself. However, he wasn't as experienced as she was. Regardless, he made the 90-minute drive, only stopping at a gas station to buy a flashlight. When he arrived at the trail, he found her car still in the parking lot. After walking for 2 to 3 miles in the dark with no luck, he decided it was time to get help. Plus, he had fallen and broken his flashlight. Unfortunately, even search and rescue couldn't find her. Kevin then created a GoFundMe page to raise money for bags of food and survival gear to help rescue teams. 22 days later, when the money had run out, the official search ended. When her mother, Lisa, arrived in Seattle from Pennsylvania, a park ranger told her that he believed Sam had fallen and died. Others agree with the ranger or believe she encountered a wild animal, but no signs of either have been found. Lisa, on the other hand, believed at the time that her daughter was alive and still on the mountain. However, by the time the snow started in October, she had changed her mind and hired a private investigator. She now believes she was kidnapped and forced into a sex trafficking ring. However, it's unclear what the private investigator found that makes her believe this. Lisa had also alluded to Kevin being abusive towards Sam and had dropped a few hints that she thinks he could be involved. She even claims to have information that no one else has about her daughter's disappearance and Kevin's alleged involvement. There was even an unknown man online who claimed he had photos of Kevin choking Sam. However, he's never been named a suspect by law enforcement. The most plausible reason nothing has been found, and something that most of the searchers agree on, is that Sam fell into a crevice. It's also been mentioned that she possibly took her own life, and that was the reason she was adamant about going alone that day. So what really happened to Sam? Did she accidentally fall to her death? Was she sold into a sex trafficking ring, or did Kevin have something to do with her disappearance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As of August 2024, she has never been found, and this case remains unsolved. Donna Kay Cloud was born on July 7, 1997, and raised by her paternal grandparents after her mother dropped her off and never returned. Donna was described as a beautiful, funny, and caring individual. When she was 14 years old, she tried to meet her mother but was stood up. In 2016, 19-year-old Donna was a mother of a 4-year-old son named Ryan, living in Splendora, Texas. Unfortunately, she began following in her mother's footsteps after meeting a man named Blake a year earlier. He was addicted to drugs and allegedly very abusive towards Donna. After breaking up with him, she moved in with her father, Daryl Beatty, who she reconnected with in 2015. This move was an attempt to get her life back in order, but unfortunately, it was a huge mistake, and not long after, she strangely disappeared. In October of 2016, Donna came up with the idea to sell meth to make some much-needed money. She had also connected with a couple of older men named Carter Meyer and Aubrey Schultz. However, she was a little weirded about Carter, who said some strange stuff to her. On October 25, 2016, she and her father got into an argument which caused him to kick her out. Allegedly, the argument was over money because Daryl claimed he would lose the house without $400. Unfortunately, she had a new phone and didn't have many numbers saved in it. So in a last-ditch attempt to get a ride, she called Carter. Carter was a drug dealer, and she figured it was time to put her plan into motion to sell some drugs. When he picked her up, he also had his roommate Aubrey Schultz with him in the car. For the next 2 days, it appeared she traveled between Conroe and Houston, Texas. Just after midnight on the first night, she was active on her Facebook account. The following night, on October 26, she was once again on Facebook and performing searches on Google while in the West Chase area of Houston. One of her last searches was, "How much is meth worth?" Around 1 a.m. on October 27th, her phone was either turned off or died, and she was never heard from again. Her cell phone disappeared along with her and only came back on once in the area where she was last seen. After being reported missing, investigators questioned Daryl, who initially lied and said she left the home to go on a blind date with an unidentified man she met online. He then finally told the truth that she was picked up by 2 men. He told investigators the argument was over an ex-boyfriend of hers, but she had sent a text to some people saying she needed to make $400 to remain with her father. When investigators interviewed Carter Meyer, he claimed he dropped her back off later that night. After her disappearance, Carter was arrested for selling drugs, and Aubrey was arrested for stabbing a man because he was homosexual. So what really happened to Donna? Did Carter and Aubrey have something to do with her disappearance, or are they telling the truth and really did drop her back off at home, and then something else happened? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As for her ex-boyfriend, Blake, he passed a polygraph and was ruled out. Donna was last seen wearing a burgundy shirt, blue jeans, and white canvas shoes, and as of August 2024, this case remains unsolved.